The Chakralytics Show.
Namaste. The Tantraloka. In this video, we're talking about the advanced suggestions for advanced study of Kashmir Shaivism. And with that, we're going to dive into the Tantraloka, into the 11 volumes of the Tantraloka. And what I'm going to do, because for me myself, it's being a study as well. And I'm currently reading through the books that I've been mentioning in the previous videos. And sometimes I'm going to the Tantraloka just to take a peek or to read some sections. But it's something that I'm being devoted to and that I'm working towards. But I would like to give some some insights into the topics of the different volumes, the specific topics of the different volumes of the Tantraloka. So maybe to give an idea of what's in there and what can be found in there. And I'm using page 298 of the Tantra Illuminated by Christopher Wallis as a guide, as a guide through these volumes. He has written like a summary on the chapters and what's in the chapters. So. But I have the volumes here of the Tantraloka, translated by Mark Dyczkowski. A beautiful work. I've mentioned Mark Dyczkowski in the previous videos as well, and I experience him as a great source of knowledge, a great source of inspiration, and I'm participating in his courses as well, and I'm reading through a lot of his work. And with that being said, what I would like to mention is that the books, I will place links in the description to the books, so you can purchase them on Amazon. These will be affiliate links. If you purchase a book, we may receive a commission. So thank you for the support. You have my gratitude. And if you appreciate the content that we're creating, please like and subscribe. And if you have any questions that arise during watching this video, please ask them. And I warmly invite you to ask them. And it's my intention to answer these questions and to my understanding. So I would first of all like to just start with volume 1, with chapter 1. And volume 1 of the Tantraloka, this is what it looks like. And volume 1 contains of chapter 1. And chapter 1 sets out, according to the beautiful summary of Christopher Wallis, it sets out the fundamentals, the nature of bondage and liberation, the role of insight, and the 4 means to liberation. So, if we go to the Tantraloka, and we look at chapter 1, at the contents of chapter 1, it discusses the types of liberating knowledge, an introductory. Freedom, it goes into the freedom and bondage, so the causes of bondage, of knowledge and ignorance. and the exposition of the Tantraloka, and the means of realization, concerning the means of realization. So it sets out the foundation of the Tantraloka. So this is volume 1, chapter 1. There are 11 volumes. If we go to the next one, volume 2. Volume 2 contains chapter 2 and 3. And according to Tantra Illuminated, chapter 2 explains the first of the 4 means, that of Anupāya, or sudden realization based on a single teaching transmission from a realized master. Chapter 3 covers the second means, the method of non-discursive direct intuition called Śāmbhavopāya, or the divine means, together with a lengthy meditation on the metaphysical basis of the Sanskrit alphabet. So, if we look at the chapters, we can see that chapter 2 contains the penetration into ultimate reality devoid of means, Anupāya. It's also called the no means, Anupāya, and with no means, they would also mean, or it has been described, very little means. So that's what Christopher Wallis also says, like one lecture of one teaching of the guru, of the realized master, into the nature of reality, and the adept just gets it. It just resonates. So this is said to be for the very few, for very few who have had a very intense Śaktipāta, and yes, they often say this is for a very few. For the most of us, there are other means that work towards this state of realization, and that's chapter 3 is going to the next stage, and that's called in this chapter. So it's often called Śāmbhavopāya, or the divine means. In this in the Tantraloka, translated by Mark Dyczkowski, it's called the supreme means, Upāyas, the doctrine of reflection. And it then goes on and explains this, and then it moves towards the alphabet of the 50 forms of reflective awareness. So this is a lengthy. Well, this is the lengthy meditation on the metaphysical basis of the Sanskrit alphabet. So, especially in the Trika system, they have a beautiful system of linguistic mysticism, and it's based on the Sanskrit alphabet, on the vowels, on the vowels and the on the Sanskrit alphabet. So this here is the explanation of it. And then it goes deeper into the oneness of these forms of reflective awareness with mantra and the rest. So I can see here the cycle of the flow of aham, so the aham mantra, so the I, the I am, the pure I mantra Aham, the aesthetic delight of Shiva's power of emission, the three forms of emission, the triad A, I, U, yes, it goes into the all-embracing wheel of the 12 kalikas. And it mentions the liberation in this life, the Jiva Mukti, liberation while embodied. So this is volume number 2. Then we go to volume number 3. Volume number 3, it contains chapter 4. So they all look like this. 11 of them. They're all pretty thick books. And volume 3, chapter 4, is on liberation through knowledge, according to Christopher Wallis's Tantra Illuminated. Cultivating thought patterns in alignment with the nature of reality. This is the third means, which is called Śaktopāya, or the empowered means. So chapter 4, you can look at the index in the context, or in the, it's an appendix. So it is indeed about Śaktopāya, so Śāktopāya, the empowered means, and purification and empowerment of thought without outer support. Goes about the true teacher, finding a true teacher, types of teachers. It goes about direct initiation by the goddess, learning mantras from books, the created teacher, the uncreated teacher, sources and means of knowledge, arising of the cycles of consciousness, the 12 kalis. The 12 kalis is, and it goes deep into the 12 kalis. It's a secret practice of the, or a secret teaching of the Krama lineage. It's very much being referred to, and yes. So I find this very intriguing. So okay. Yeah, so then there's commentaries. The vitality of mantra goes through the vitality of mantra. The universal pulse of the heart of consciousness. Okay, and the true repetition of mantra. Then next we go to volume 4. Volume 4 contains chapters 5 and 6. Chapters 5 and 6, and according to Tantra Illuminated, chapter 5 expounds the methods of meditation, visualization, and breath practice, collectively called Āṇavopāya, or the embodied means. This is the fourth and final means to liberation. Then chapter 6 explains how the cycles of time correlate to the flow of the vital energy or prana in the body, how to meditate on those cycles, and how to transcend time altogether. So let's dive into the content. And chapter 5, indeed it says, the individual means, Āṇavopāya. So now it says the individual means as purification of thought with an outer support. Pure thought is many kinds of liberating certainty. Entering the heart on the plane of emission. It goes about the 10 voids, the 10 states and their locations, the 10 abodes, the 10 levels of unstruck sound, the characteristic signs on the path, the Trika Linga, instruments of yoga, the nature of the phonemes. That's the word I was looking for with the when we talked about the Sanskrit alphabet, the phonemes, in the flow of the breath. And then it goes into a few mantras, seed mantras, bija mantras. It goes into the lunar, into the moon, to the lunar month, the new moon, the procession of day and night, of night and day, the solar eclipse, the lunar eclipse, a projection of the year into the breath, the 12-year cycle, the cycle of 60 years, the cycles of time in the outer world, human measures of time, the lifespans of the gods, the egg of Brahma, the lifespans of the lords of the worlds and the cosmic cycles up to Shiva. Time within the breath and immersed in the states of consciousness. So it goes very much into time. The temporal means, also called Kalopāya. So this is chapter 6. Yes, fascinating. Huh? And then volume 5 contains chapters 7 and 8. And chapter 7, according to Tantra Illuminated, shows the sequences of various mantras are to be mastered by contemplative repetition within the cyclical flow of the breath. And chapter 8 contains the hierarchy of worlds or dimensions of existence. Bhuvanas are detailed. So if we look at the volume 5, chapter 7 and chapter 8, so chapter 7, it says the emergence of the cycles of mantras, Chakralytics, the various cycles or mantras linked to the rhythm of the breath, the nature of mantras and the exertion of the water wheel of the breath. The arising of mantras in the flow of the breath, the rhythm of mantra, the pulse of perception and the eternity of consciousness. The cycles of mantra within the breath according to the Yoginī Kaula. Yoginī Kaula. The division of mantras and vidyas in the breath. The power of time, the breath, the pulse of consciousness and the void. The channels of the breath and the measure of the body. So that's chapter 7, it dives deep into the cycles of mantras. So I think it's a beautiful follow-up on the measure of time, of the path of time, and in chapter 6. And then in chapter 7, over in chapter 8, it moves into the path of space. And I found this to be very intriguing, and this was one of the chapters that I really wanted to dive into. So I've already been reading through it a bit, and it goes about the planes or the different worlds of existence, and the path of space, and the path of space established in the body and pervasive consciousness. So there is being talked about the egg of Brahma, the worlds within the earth principle and the egg of Brahma. So the worlds in the lower half of the egg of Brahma, Ananta in the boat of the cosmic waters below the egg of Brahma, the worlds within the egg of Brahma, the world of the fire of time, the 35 hells of Avicii, the 8 nether worlds, the upper half of the egg, Mount Meru, and surrounding lands and mountains. It goes very deep in this. The city surrounding Meru, the 4 mountains surrounding Mount Meru, the forests, lakes, and trees on the mountains, the 9 principal region, Jambudvipa and its 9 principal regions, the 9 mountain chains around Meru, the regions around Meru. Yes, it goes very deep into this. West of Meru, east of Meru, north of Meru, south of Meru, the land of Bharata, the 9 regions of Bharata, the 7 mountains, 6 islands, and inhabitants of Kumarika. So it goes very deep into these planes of existence. Very deep. And I think it's the 118 worlds. The 7 lokas, it goes into the worlds of Brahma and Vishnu, Rudra's world, the elements of gross and subtle from which the egg is fashioned, the measurements of the egg of Brahma. Then it goes into the fate of Shaivites after death. And it goes into the subtle body, the spheres of the subtle body elements, and the 8 bodies of Shiva. The worlds of manas and the intellect. Yes, so it goes very deep into this. So beautiful, the path of space. And then let's move to the next next volume, and that's volume number 6, because we're so volume number 6 is it's on chapters 9 and 10, and chapters 9 and 10, according to Tantra Illuminated, treats the hierarchy of the Tattvas. Chapter 9, so chapter 9 treats the hierarchy of the Tattvas, or the 36 principles of reality, along with an excursus on causality. Chapter 10, the 7 layers of consciousness or types of consciousness. The 7 layers of consciousness or types of conscious beings are discussed, along with an excursus on objectivity. So if we move to the volume of the Tantraloka, we go into the chapter 9 first. It's called the Path of the Principles. So it goes into what are Tattvas, thatness. Then it goes into the relationship between cause and effect. Then it goes into the supreme Shiva, the agent of all things. Momentariness and the succession of cause and effect, the seed and the sprout, succession and perception. Okay, so it various sequences of the Kankukas, a description of the sequence of the principles, the 5 pure principles, the 5 pure subjects. The 6 causes are not tattvas. The pure path, the impure path, emitted by agoresha, the nature of mala, the paralyzing power of impurity. Impurity, not really an obscuring covering. Concerning the nature of impurity continued, and concerning karma, and the karma of the 7 perceivers, the nature of karma, the nature of Maya. Maya as the night, Maya as as a principle of or reality level, tattva. Yes, so it goes into the 5 coverings, the Kankukas. Or Kanchukas, maybe I should say it like that. Kanchukas. And then Chapter 10, which was said to go into the 7 layers of consciousness or types of conscious beings. And Chapter 10 says the division of the principles, introduction into the 7 perceivers. The 7 perceivers as possessors of power and their innate nature. The 3 as the Trika goddesses and poles of perception. The 14 divisions pertaining to earth, the ascent through the 7 perceivers, and the elimination of ignorance. Okay, so it goes into the progressive differentiation of Bhairava's aspects, does not limit him. So it goes into deep sleep and awakening. The nature and types of deep sleep, the 7 perceivers and their powers, own nature and conclusion, undivided Shiva's 5 aspects, perceivers and phases of perception in the cycle of the vital breath, projection of the 15 divisions into the vital breath, penetration into Shiva and attainment of the goddess of intuition, The waking, it goes into the a description of the waking states, waking and other states, from a Kaula point of view. So the waking state, the dream state, waking in the dream state, dreaming within dreaming, deep sleep, the fourth state, beyond the fourth, the waking and other states of the seven perceivers, the waking and other states from another point of view. Okay, so this is volume 6. Volume 6. Okay, let's move to volume 7. So volume 7 contains chapters 11 through 14, and according to Tantra Illuminated, chapters 11 is about in chapter 11 we learn about the 5 cosmic divisions, primordial creative powers, Kala, which are also the 5 constituents of the subtle body. In chapter 12 culminates and summarizes these discussions by treating the 6 distinct paths to liberation, 3 of which he has already treated in detail. In chapter 13 discusses the descent of power, Śaktipāta, or grace by which embodied consciousness liberates itself, either directly or more commonly through initiation. Portions of the chapter are translated in his doctoral dissertation. This is of Christopher Wallis in his doctoral dissertation. Chapter 14 covers the opposite force, the power of occlusion by which consciousness binds itself. So let's dive into the Tantraloka, volume 7. So chapter 11, the path of the forces. The forces and the cosmic eggs. The 5 elements pervading the universe and beyond, Supreme Shiva and beyond. The 5 forces and the 5 elements. The divisions of the paths. The process of differentiation of the phonemes. Phonemic consciousness. Phonemic consciousness as the ground of linguistic conventions. Beautiful. And aesthetic delight heightened by the development of phonemic consciousness. The power of the phonemes. The purification of the 6 paths of noetic consciousness, subject, object, and means of knowledge. Purification and purifying mantras. A description of the power that sustains everything. And then chapter 12 goes into the application of the path of the forces and the rest. The cosmic body, the path within both the parts of the body and the components of the right, the contemplation of non-duality, view the body as containing the paths, the abode of the pulse of time and space, and all the deities. Consumption of the sacrificial substance wherever the mind is propitious. The reduction of doubt. And chapter 13 then goes into the descent of power and obscuration. Why is the experience born of karma not generated for liberated souls also? How can karma be destroyed? Ignorance and knowledge, the nature of ignorance. Ignorance as total absence of knowledge is refuted. Ignorance as the antecedent absence of knowledge is refuted. So it goes into the descent of power of grace takes place to the degree this binding power decreases. Then it goes into karma, its nature, operation, and elimination. Shiva's grace. Shiva's grace is independent of Maya, karma, or impurity. Shiva, out of his own free will binds and liberates himself. So then it goes into the varieties of the descent of power of grace. So the divine, the variety of intensity of Śaktipāta. The intense descent of the power of grace. The power of intuition, the teacher and disciple. The self-created teacher. Stabilization of unsteady understanding. The greater the power of intuition, the greater the teacher. Beautiful, yeah. So these texts go very, very deep. Of course, it is the advanced. I suggest them as the advanced teachings, and it will. Yes, it just goes very deep in the whole tradition and the whole school of Anuttara Trika. So liberation can be attained by both intuition and initiation, discernment and discrimination. So the yogi acquires siddhis by this discrimination. Indifferent to them, to the siddhis, he is liberated in this life and liberates others. Beautiful. The intellect is binding, initiation and intuitive knowledge. Source of knowledge that remove doubt are the direct experience, the teacher and scripture. So that goes into the paths of deepening self-understanding. Source of knowledge that remove doubt are direct experience, the teacher and scripture. The degrees of grace. Okay, so here it goes into the different degrees of the intensity of grace. We see intense descent of the power of grace, the intense descent of the power of grace, the moderately intense descent of the power of grace, the mildly intense descent of the power of grace, the moderate descent of the power of grace, mild descent of the power of grace. Supreme grace. Alright, and then chapter 14, a preamble to the rite of initiation, the removal of obstruction. The Lord acts in accord with the constraints of karma and necessity or independently. Okay. Fulfillment by knowledge. Alright. So this was volume 7, chapters 11 through 14. Then we go to volume 8, chapter 15, and volume 8, chapter 15. Chapter 15 is by Christopher Wallis in Tantra Illuminated. He says, chapter 15, the longest, covers the non-dualist understanding of ritual, the basic type of ritual initiation, and the rules of discipline for initiates. Beautiful summary. And then if we go into the volume, chapter 15, in the contents it says, the common initiation into the rule, types of initiation and competence for it, the rites of initiation and the daily ritual, the various types of ablution, the selection of the place suitable for the sacrifice, the kinds of common depositions, suitable Kaula sacrificial substances, worship of the abode of sacrifice and the directions, the depositions, inner sacrifice, and it goes into the external sacrifice, alright, so that's volume number 8, chapter 15. Volume 9. So volume 9 contains chapters 16 through 27. So what Christopher Wallis says, in chapter 16 and 17, the full form of liberating initiation, Nirvana Diksha. Then in chapter 18, abbreviated initiation. Chapter 19, initiation for those close to death. Chapter 20, the ritual called Scales Initiation. Chapter 21, initiation for those who have just left the body. Chapter 22, initiation after conversion from another faith. Chapter 23, ritual consecration of gurus. Chapter 24, cremation rites. Chapter 25, the ritual of making offerings to ancestors. Chapter 26, the daily tantric ritual of worship. Chapter 27, consecration of substrates of personal worship. Substrates of personal worship. Well, so it's a lot of different kind of types of initiation. And these are all contained in this volume 9, so the chapters will be a little bit shorter. Chapter 16, according to the contents of Mark Dyczkowski's translation of the Tantraloka, it goes about the initiation of the apprentice. Then it goes, yes, it goes even into animal offering and animal sacrifice, eight types of sacrificial animal, the inflaming of the teacher's own essential nature, the depositions, the procedure of deposition of a path of the disciple's body, the projection of the 36 principles onto the body, the projection of the path of the worlds onto the body, the deposition of the path of the parts of mantra, the deposition of the path of the phonemes, the deposition of the path of the forces, the deposition of the purifying mantras, the initiations and liberation. So it goes initiation aided by cognitive yoga, the essential being and purpose of mantra, the dynamics of initiation. Then in chapter 17 it goes into what needs to be done in the procedure concerning the apprentice. That goes into fashioning the 3 knots of the sacred thread, the purification of the principles, illuminating the body of the disciple with the movement of the breath of the and mantra. Goes into various paths. Goes into the brief initiation in chapter 18. Then it goes into chapter 19, the initiation for the immediate exit from the body. The initiation whereby a dying man attains Shiva at the moment of death. The initiation validated by the scales. The initiation, chapter 21, the initiation of those absent. The procedure concerning those who are absent, whether death or life. Then it goes to chapter 22, the extraction of sectarian signs. Chapter 23 goes into the consecration of a teacher. It goes into the examination of the competence of the postulate, qualities required for a teacher, the effects of a false teacher, the true teacher, teachers that should be avoided, the teacher to be adopted as one with perfect knowledge, the creation of a teacher. Okay? So then it goes into chapter 24, the Funary rites. And then in chapter 25 it goes into the fashioning of the offerings to the ancestors. In chapter 26 it goes into the remaining observance. Remaining observance. Then in chapter 27, it goes into the worship of the linga. Alright? Oh, then, yeah, volume 10. Volume 10. So, volume 10 goes into chapter 28 and chapter 29. I feel like some of these teachings are quite secretive, but so it feels a bit Yeah, yeah, but okay. So, but now it's been written down, and it's for the greater public. It's available for the greater public, but especially chapters 28 and chapters 29. So we've already been through a few rituals, and they were, I think, some of them have been very secretive in the tradition as well. And that now, if we are going to chapter 20, chapter 28 and chapter 21, chapter 29, we're going into secret practice that's also especially in chapter 29, it's the sexual rite. So it's the sexual practice. And the Kaula sexual ritual. And in chapter 28, according to Christopher Wallis, miscellaneous rites, including worship of yoginis in human form, rites preceding the teacher of scripture, and worship of the person of the guru, plus an excursus on the nature of death and the pathways of the soul after death. So I have read into this because I found well, I've read a little bit into it. The nature of death and the pathways of the soul after death intrigued me. And then chapter 29, rites of the Kaula Trika, including Kaula initiation and the Kaula sexual ritual, Adi Yaga, or primal worship. So what I would like to say is that to fully understand these teachings, it may be beneficial to at the Anuttara Trika website, so the website of Mark Dyczkowski, who has written this, who has translated these books. There is like a reading group, and there are courses on the Tantraloka to deeper understand these teachings and to deeper understand the deeper meaning of what these rituals contain, and what these what is really from Mark Dyczkowski, his scholarship and his understanding, what is being meant with the teachings described here. So perhaps I will not go too deep into these, but at chapter 28 we see the many kinds of propitious times, the offering of the sacred thread, and other occasional rites. Kinds of auspicious days, for example, other occasions for the performance of occasional rites, kinds of auspicious days. Abhinava's analysis of the state of collective consciousness of those who worship together in the assembly for Ariyaga. And assembly Ariyaga is what has been described here as the primal worship in the Tantra Illuminated. So what is meant here is probably the including Kaula initiation and the Kaula sexual ritual, what is here described as Adiyaga. So here it has been said, Abhinava's analysis of the state of collective consciousness of those who worship together in the assembly of Adiyaga. So common auspicious days according to the Haidara. Okay. Special auspicious times of fulfillment. the examination of death. So it goes into the first appearance of life, death, and decay of the body. Then it goes into death and into the uninitiated who die in sacred places, the initiated who die in sacred places, the initiated who possess knowledge, attain the state of conjunction, death in sacred places, state of initiated death, and his possible fate. Yogis who do not experience death as yogic entry into another body. So this goes very much in the dynamics of death, abandoning the body, assuming a new body, the power of creative meditation. So I find this to be very intriguing. And then chapter 29. So the secret observance. So those fit to participate in the Kaula rites. I feel to keep this a little bit so yes, so it goes into the state of arousal, for example, the plane of union of the tantric partners, yoga of union between the partners according to the yoga samsara. Alright, then goes into initiation, diksha. Okay, so then the last volume, volume 11, last chapter, volume 11, chapter 30 through 37. So according to Christopher Wallis, it contains mantras, chapter 30, chapter 31, Maṇḍalas, chapter 32, Mudrās or seals, configuration of body, prana and awareness to achieve particular states. Chapter 33, ancillary deities of the Trika. I don't know, I'm not sure how to pronounce ancillary. Chapter 34, the relationship among the three means to liberation described in chapters 1 to 5. Chapter 35, the canon of scripture and hierarchy of revelation. Chapter 36, the transmission of the key Trika scriptures, the doctrine of the perfected Yoginis, Siddha Yogeshvari Mata, and the latter triumph of the alphabet goddesses, Malini Vijaya Uttra. And chapter 37, why the study of Tantraloka is valuable, and an account of Abhinava's family line, his gurus and spiritual history, and an acknowledgement of his close disciples. So let's go into the last one, into the last volume. So the contents of chapter 30, it's indeed the current of mantras, the form of the mantras. Yes, it goes in different kind of mantras. The limbs of the Vidya, the liberating weapon. Okay, yes, different kind of mantras. The vitality of mantras. And then chapter 31, it goes into the Trika Mandala. Trika Mandala. Oh, that's very interesting. The drawing of the square base of the mandala according to the Malini Vijaya Uttara. Malini Vijaya Uttara. Okay, so chapter 32, the procedure concerning the seals, mudra. Chapter 33, the gathering together of the deities, according to the Malini Vijaya. Okay, so chapter 34 goes into entry in one's own nature. The ascent through the individual, empowered and Śāmbhava states and beyond to realization. Chapter 35, the encounter of the scriptures. Chapter 36, an account of the transmission of the scriptures. And chapter 37, a description of the scriptures to be adopted. The excellence of Trika Kaulism. And concluding verses, the beauty and spiritual powers of India, Kashmir, the beauty of the Kashmir Valley and the greatness of its inhabitants. And it goes into Abhinavagupta. Abhinavagupta's background a little bit. Abhinavagupta's mother, who died when he was a child, and his father was his first teacher. Abhinavagupta's teachers, Abhinavagupta's students. And the concluding invocation and blessing. So I think this is a good place to conclude as well. These were the 11 volumes of the Tantraloka for my suggestions for advanced practice, for advanced study. Of course, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I will try to answer them according to my understanding. And if you like the content that we're creating, I warmly invite you to like and to subscribe. And thank you for watching. Namaste.